Right, I found out where I was again now. I've been trying to get off these steroids for 4 years, obviously, since I'm still taking them, and I started on them. They only tried putting me on different drugs around April last year, so April 2010. They finally tried me on an alternative medication, because each time I'd go and see the specialist, they would fob me off with excuses saying, oh, you're only having flare-ups because this, that and the other, it won't happen again, keep coming down off the steroids and you'll be fine. Obviously I wasn't, because I'd come down off them, I'd get really poorly, and I'd eventually have to go back on them because all the symptoms would come back. Like I'd get ulcers all in my mouth. That's another major thing. When I was first diagnosed and in the hospital, I had ulcers on my balls. I know all of this is too much info, so I'm really sorry to be so graphic. But yeah, I had 2 ulcers on my testicles, which have left scars. They're like really, really smooth skin now, actually. They're really funny to see, but they were, oh my god, so painful. I can't describe it. I've never been so uncomfortable in all my life. It was like even worse than the blisters. Thankfully though, they've never come back since I started my treatment, because obviously the steroids stop them. But yeah, they finally tried putting me on another pill called azathioprine last April, but I was only on it for about a month, and then I developed an allergy to it. I was breaking out in hives, I had tightness in my chest and I couldn't breathe. It was not nice at all. So obviously, I was at uni at this point, and I couldn't do anything. I was too ill. So got in touch with the doctor, said, I really am not reacting well to these drugs. I need to, see specialist ASAP. So I'd go and see him, and then he'd just feed me the bullshit saying, no, you're not allergic to this. It's your condition, just stay on it and you'll be fine. So the first time I did, and obviously I didn't get any better. I just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where my chest would be so tight I actually could not walk. It's really bizarre. It would be so tight that I'd just get out of breath, fucking getting up from my chair and going to my bedroom door in halls. I can remember I went to the shop one time whilst I was like that. It took me, the shop, bearing in mind it's literally outside the hall, so I was on the top floor. You go down the stairs, come out the gate, and then there's a co-op there. It took me an hour and a half to get from my room to go to the shop and to get back. That is how bad it was, because every time I'd take a step, it was like crushing on my chest. So I rang them up again, said it's not getting any better. I can't breathe. I broke out in such a really bad rash all over my arms, my chest, my back. It was like a massive red rash. Told them about it. They were like, right, well, come in tomorrow or something like that. So I did. They put down in the notes that I rang in complaining about diarrhoea, which I have no idea where that came from. So that it just shows that they're incompetent pricks who are just writing down what they want to. So I basically told them that was bullshit. I saw the specialist. He tried giving me the same bullshit, but I wasn't having it this time. I said, I'm not taking these anymore. They are making me worse than the disease itself. So he had to accept it, obviously. So he said, right, continue with the steroids. I'll see you in so many months or whatever again. So he fobbed me off. I came back this will have been last September now when I saw him, and he was trying me on another alternate drug called methotrexate. I started that in about October. I was on it for literally 2 or 3 weeks. It was even less than the azathioprine, and I was just sat in the living room, because we'd moved into student house by this point. I was just sat there, and my friend just said, what's all that shit on your arm? And I looked, and they were just completely covered in massive hives. And I'd roll up my shirt, and it was all up my arms, it was all on my chest, all on my back. It was everywhere. It was all on my neck. It really, really, really frightened me. So obviously I rang up. I said I need to see him now. I'm covered in this shit and I don't know what to do. I, shit like that happens. You don't expect it. It frightens you. So I went to see him. I think it was like the next day or a couple of days later. What happened with this rash was I'd break out in hives, obviously. The only thing that would make it go down is if I got in a hot bath, they'd then go down, but then as soon as I'd get out of the bath, they'd come back. It was really bizarre, and it would only happen at certain points in the day. Like, I think it was when I took the pills or something like that. So I went in. I didn't have any on me at that point. It was like really early in the morning. But as I was waiting in the changing rooms, fuck's sake, what am I on about? I was waiting in the waiting room even, and I could actually see them, like, developing on my arm, like rising. It was so bizarre. So I went into his office. He's like, right, what's the matter? I was like, this is what's the matter. I'm allergic to this medication. And again, he said, no, you're not. This is your disease. I can't even remember how I responded to him. There was a nurse stood with him. She just wasn't saying anything. She was just looking down at the floor. I think she knew that he was wrong and that I was right, but she wasn't saying anything because otherwise it'd probably jeopardise her working conditions. So, yeah, he was trying to convince me to stay on them, because he then said there is no other alternative medication that I can go on, so I'd either have to stay on this, go back on the azathioprine, which we'd already established I was allergic to, or I'd have to stay on the steroids, which I was supposed to only be on short term, and obviously because I hadn't gone into remission, they weren't working. And every single rheumatologist that I'd seen acknowledged that they weren't working, but still left me on them regardless. So I just completely despaired. I was proper depressed for like ages. He said he'd see me again in 6 months, as they do. They just fob you off. You're just another number to them, basically. And this time I took my sister with me. She recently, this year even, in June, just gone. So she came with me. Her and my dad have been furious about it since I started treatment. They've wanted to sue the NHS and shit for neglect. Because my bone density is now very low as well. It's like on the point of osteoporosis. So she came with me and said, right, what are you going to do for him? Because none of this medication is working. So he finally said, there's nothing within my power that I can do. I'm going to have to refer him to a specialist in Liverpool who is basically the head of the Behcet foundation, or something or other to do with it. He's a big important figure. He's basically the person who'd be able to decide whether I'd be able to go on the experimental medication that they're using, which is also the very expensive medication, which is what he was trying to keep me off, for obvious reasons. I don't know why he didn't just say this to me 6 months earlier when I spoke to him, but because she was there, he said it. And then I saw this specialist in September,